Hi, Bewley Young Adults. My name is Lisa Humphreys. I am the ministry assistant here at Bewley Young Adults. And today we're welcoming Matt Richards for our Hope Rising video. Yay! Episode 5. We get to hear about Matt's experience at Capernwray in Sweden and just some things that went on there. So, Matt, for those of our people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So as mentioned, I'm Matt. I'm 20 years old, and I've been with Bewley Young Adults now for about 3 years. So I've been in Sweden for the last 10 months, and I've only been out of quarantine now for 10 days as of the time of recording this. And so basically, I'm just readjusting to being in Canada and to the Corona world. Things I like to do. I like to be outside, hanging out with friends, any kind of sports, and I love longboarding and reading. So.
Sweet. Is there anything interesting you're going to be doing this summer?
Yeah, there's some camping trips coming up that I'm looking forward to, and then finishing off the summer with a fun lake trip and hopefully a lot of tubing and just good time with friends. So looking forward to that.
Yes, we are going to Saskatchewan. I'm making all of our friends drive 9 hours to a lake in the middle of nowhere. We're going to go tubing. We just invested in a very expensive tube. So I'm very excited for that because last year we destroyed my friend's tube and then didn't tell his family. So he'll never see this, so we're good. Okay. Well, let's just go right into it. Where does your story kind of begin? Does it start before you left or while you were in Sweden? Where does it kind of start?
I'd say that it started pretty much a month before I left. So just at the start of August 2019. It's the beginning.
Nice. And what was kind of happening at that time? What was going on?
So very beginning of August is when I got my acceptance into the Torchbearers in Sweden, Holsby. And so basically when that happened, because I wasn't, it was kind of a short-term decision or a pretty rushed decision. And so I got my acceptance and then I had to really quickly come to terms with the fact that in a month I was going to be saying goodbye and heading off to the other side of the world. State of mind really was just trying to soak up as much time as I could with my friends and say my goodbyes over and over and over again, really. It was starting to get very difficult to know that soon I wouldn't be with those same friends anymore, and that I'd kind of be on my own in Sweden until I, made new friends, made new acquaintances. And given that I'm a very, very people-oriented person, that was probably my biggest fear going into the year, was knowing that I'd be leaving behind every relationship that I had at the time.
Yeah, I can imagine how difficult that was, because for all of us here, it was really hard to say goodbye to you. We had 4 or 5 goodbye parties and we met you at the airport and it was pretty devastating that you were gone. I think I literally have an Instagram post that says Matthew leaves today and we're devastated. So
yeah, I remember that one.
Goodbye. Yeah. So what kind of challenge did you face once you kind of got there?
Yeah, so right upon arriving in Sweden, I remember pulling into the driveway of the school and just like being filled with this dread and almost regret of like, oh no, what have I done? Largely that was because I had left behind everyone back here, and I was still feeling that. And that doesn't go away in a day. I kind of dealt with that for probably the first 3 weeks to a month of missing people back home. And trying to make new friends where I was, but obviously still feeling kind of the sting of losing relationships here. But eventually, time passed and that sting went away until March, when it came back, and it came back harder than ever because finally these new friends that I had made because of Corona, they had to rush out of there kind of without any warning or any preparation. It was just, hey, Denmark's closing the borders, everybody leave. And so all those that weren't staying for the next semester had to rush home sooner than they had planned. And that was extra hard because, I mean, you already go through one season of hard goodbyes in a year, and then you're hit with another that, although in the long run you were anticipating, when it comes that much sooner, and you don't have your chance to really make the most of that last week that you were expecting to have, it's a different kind of bitter that you feel, knowing that you could have had those extra days. Yeah, unfortunately, all of this Corona breaking, everyone leaving, all happened at probably the crux of the worst seasonal depression that I've ever had in my life. So I was already trying to cope with that and just stay in a good state of mind despite it. And then all of this went down, and it was just much worse due to that.
Yeah, that must have been really hard. Not being able to do, the last time we're going to this place, last time we're doing this. Definitely hard to say goodbye and to not do it the way that you intended. And yeah, also not knowing when you'd see those people again. It's a very different goodbye than just leaving home. But yeah. What emotions were you feeling kind of at that time going through all of that?
I mean, I felt very lost and afraid, going through, a lot of hardship again, and dealing with it away from home was already pretty challenging. And I felt very lonely after saying all those goodbyes. It didn't leave me with no one there. I still had really good friends there, but after all of those goodbyes, it just felt very difficult to reach out. I felt like with all that had gone down, any relationship that I reached into might not be worthwhile because I might be saying goodbye to them again soon. And then that would end as well. And yeah, it's hard now to really get back into that same state of mind, or to rationalize how I was feeling, because the depression just added this whole layer of fog that took away my clarity of mind, and left me feeling really dejected and afraid like I'd never felt before in my life. It took all of the worry that I was feeling and all of the sorrow that I was feeling and just dialed it up by like 11.
Yeah. And I bet on top of just even fearing a pandemic and stuff like that. And that was also right at the beginning. So no one had any idea what it was going to turn out to be like. I can definitely not understand, but yeah, get that you would start to feel super overwhelmed on top of everything you were already feeling mentally. And yeah, that lost feeling, I'm sure, was definitely very hard to manage. So, you know, even though logic was kind of out the window, I mean, as you were saying, things were kind of fogged with the seasonal depression. Even with that, what was your plan of action to kind of work through this challenge?
Yeah. So I had a lot of time left at school after Corona happened. So I knew that I needed to bounce back, and like make the most. And I mean, that was the plan all along. But yeah, what I knew I needed was joy, in order to break that condemnation of depression. And I knew that I needed to choose the joy of the Lord, and that it probably wouldn't come easy, but that I would have to take steps in order to get there. So one of the first things that I did, like I mentioned, it became hard to want to reach out, but that was one of the first things that I kind of forced myself to do, was to reach out to a friend of mine that was there, get his prayer, get his support, let him know how I was feeling, what was going on, where I was at with God, where I was at, kind of mentally, relationally, and emotionally. That was already a huge weight off the shoulders, to be able to do that. And then the other thing, the depression really makes me want to isolate, and draw away from people instead of getting closer, which as a huge extrovert is super self-destructive. It really puts me into a worse place than I would be, if I just stayed connected with people. But it's just that state of mind makes me not want to be with people. So given that I was already kind of privy to the fact that I would want to self-isolate, I started to be a little bit more cognizant of what I was doing with that time that I was spending alone. And I really chose to devote that time to being with God, to read his word, to go on walks and just meditate on the lectures that we are having, to pray more, and to dive into scripture.
That's great. That's really good. Yeah, definitely understand how the self-sabotaging can happen in a place like that. So I'm glad that you're able to look outside of yourself and see what you needed to, get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, through this, were there any kind of resources or any kind of scripture that you turned to that really helped?
Yeah. So a friend of mine, before Corona even became a thing, she had recommended a song to me, by Ryan Proudfoot. It's a song called "A Man Named Job," and basically, it's all about Job's story. It's also just a great song. Really, I like the way that it sounds. But yeah, with all of this going down, I listened to it a lot, and it became my praise to God, because I mean the story of Job is just an incredible one of hardship and loss, and I didn't experience anything even close to what Job went through, but Job is used as this test of a man's faithfulness to God when everything is taken away from him, and I really wanted to reflect that and give to God and be there with him, despite how I was feeling. And yeah, the main passage of scripture that I really clung on to was Job chapter 38. Just that whole time, it's God's rebuttal against all of Job's complaints about everything that he was going through. And God just tells Job over and over again of all of the things that Job doesn't understand about, like, frankly, just the workings of the world, but also like justice. And that God is so high above it all, and the human mind can't even comprehend. So that's really what I was using as my main resource and object of reflection.
No, that's great. That's really good. It's a good passage. Just, yeah, reflecting on how big God is and how in control He is, and He knows why things are the way they are, and He, yeah, created everything, so He knows, why I guess you would have been had to say goodbye in the way that you had to say goodbye, and even though it's rough, His hand is in it all. It's great. So, where did you see hope rising from this story, and what has God taught you through this experience?
Yeah. So that season didn't have any kind of abrupt end. It wasn't like a day came where I was suddenly like, oh, I'm better and my depression is gone. It was this kind of perpetual trying every day to get better, and then you would recess a little bit. But in day to day, choosing the joy of the Lord, and choosing to spend time with Him, eventually I could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that was just even more encouragement. And that at the end of the tunnel was really just the hope of knowing that God had things in store for me, and that everything that had gone down, as the clarity of mind kind of started to come back, I could see like it was so minimal in the grand scheme of things compared to how big God's plan is. And so just this hope for the future, and that although I may not understand it, God was really working. And then the main thing that I would say that I learned, or was taught, it's an ongoing battle, a really arduous process, but I'm trying to release control and give it back to God. And that was something that I came face to face with again this year, and was really taught that I can do a lot better in that regard. Need to hand things over to God because He's got me in His hand.
So I usually ask the question at the end of this is, if you could go back and tell yourself something back when you were in the midst of, the worst of it, what would you say? Would it be that, just to relinquish control in a way?
Yeah, I would say so. I went into the year, with a lot of fear, and then experienced all of this, but I went there to really learn about the character of God, and to basically accrue knowledge on that. And I definitely got what I bargained for, and probably even more, because God showed me His character through these seasons of hardship and hope. And so I think what I would tell myself is to just anticipate that God is going to work and that he'll show you what you ask for.
Yeah. No, that's so good. That's so good. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on this episode. I'm so glad we were able to get you. I'm sure that things are super busy. You're going back, you're saying hi to people, spending time with your mom too, and all of that stuff, So I am glad that we were able to catch you for, we've been talking for a while, but for also to record this episode. Yeah, thanks so much. We missed you a lot. And to hear your story of your experience out in Sweden is, just so encouraging. It's difficult to hear that you had to deal with things in the way that you did, but I also know and can tell that the Lord has been working in your heart in so many ways. And I look forward to hearing more stories of your time there.
I got so many.
Yes, good. Sounds good. Okay, well, thank you guys for watching this week's episode of Hope Rising. Again, I'm Elisa Humphreys. This is Matt Richards, and we hope you guys have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye.